with Samplify, we didn't want to make your life even more miserable. It's already miserable. You just send an email and it responds like a human, and you can send it an Excel spreadsheet and it'll give you an Excel spreadsheet back. We offered the US government to use us for free, and so far nobody has taken us up on it. We think of our products more like an employee than a piece of software.
Why keep bleeding that money?
The thing that we do is we accelerate the time it takes. And they told us we saved them a year of time. Empowering the teams is disempowering everyone else. If you are a shareholder in the company, at the next board meeting, ask them how much they spend on software. They don't know. Nobody knows.
James, thank you very much for being here. I look forward to this conversation. You've got some interesting ideas, interesting things accomplished, and you're working on a business that relates to me. I'm also known as a MarTech specialist. I've grown up in marketing, I've grown up in tech, and one of the things I always see in companies is too many things and too little people and too much stress. And I believe you say you have a solution for the problem, and I'm really eager to hear about that. But let's start with the basics. Like, welcome, James. Who are you? Can you introduce yourself? And let's start there.
Thank you for having me, Sean. So I'm James Layfield, and I am the CSO of a company called Samplify, based over in Miami, originally from the UK. But when we foolishly left Europe, I also left the UK and moved to America.
Okay, so in America, good to hear. You say CSO, am I correct to say that's a Chief Strategic Officer?
Yeah, that's right.
Okay, perfect. And what are the roles that you have as a CSO for a company like Samplify? And if possible, preface it with telling us in a shorthand what Samplify does, if you can.
Yeah, sure. So Samplify is a relatively new company. So we are 12 months, just over 12 months old. It is an evolution of a company that I used to have. We merged in the summer of last year. And we have spent our time understanding how hard it is to work in a large company. If you work in procurement, if you work in IT, because of the complexity of software. So anyone who works in any company, I'm sure you've got lots of software. If you work in a larger organization, you're going to have an outrageous amount of software. I mean, potentially thousands and thousands of different tools. And at that level of complexity, what we see is people just buy more and more and more and more and more and more and more. And it's not because they need more. But it's not because they need more. It's basically that it's really hard for humans to comprehend what they've already purchased and all the capabilities that they have. So on some things, it's obvious that you've already got a tool that does the same thing. But because people are great at marketing, it's easy sometimes for the employee to explain why that particular tool has some special feature that only that tool has, and we have to have it or I can't do my job. And so you see that typed again. And everyone, as you mentioned at the start, everyone's very, very busy. So if you work in procurement for a large organization, you'll run off your feet. You don't have time to really go head to head with someone who's really passionate about buying something on every single occasion. And so stuff slips through the net and expands. So what we have done.
I was just going to say, like, what I find interesting there is, like, it feels like people, look, I'm in marketing. We market for our clients, we market for ourselves. So I get the point. The thing I like about your statement, and I feel like was kind of left out, is the FOMO, right? Hey, we're marketed this amazing tool, fear of missing out. If we don't have it, it's going to go down. Shit's going to happen. We're not going to make it. We're not going to get our targets. We need to have this because there's nothing else that can get us there, right? And that's the thing where I feel like a lot of people make that decision emotionally and not data driven. And I'm laying a bridge for you, and I'm passing you the stick right now, but I think that's where you're going towards. So
yeah, it's not. I think nearly every single purchase is emotional. I think it's just that's how we act as humans. But yeah, in the world of software, products are built to play to that, as you say, be it FOMO, be it exclusivity, be it improving your ability to perform. And what we have done, we have built a unique way to understand all of your software. So we studied for a long time how humans try and do this. We spent nearly 10 years looking at what they're doing. And we saw that the main thing you need to understand is the capabilities of each tool. And at the same time, one of the hardest things to understand is the capabilities of any tool. And the reason it's hard is one, all of the marketing jargon. So, like, for example, I've got an iPhone, so I've got FaceTime. You've got a Samsung, you don't have FaceTime. And it's like, and obviously we all know that they're the same thing. But as you move into the world of software, it becomes less obvious that you're talking about the same thing. Like, is Looker ML, is that the same as something that Power BI has? Or is it very different? Is it a unique thing? And so the more complicated the software, the more sophisticated the marketing, the harder it is genuinely for someone to tell the difference. And that's where we come in by using a combination of agents, machine learning, and artificial intelligence to create like a superhuman that we call Sam, who is whatever sex you'd like. Well, it's not Sam Altman, no, although I'm sure he would love it. It's actually much better than what Sam Altman's built, because Sam Altman has built a wonderful thing, obviously in ChatGPT, but as anyone who uses it will know, it makes stuff up all the time. So when you're doing the work that we're doing, you have to minimize hallucinations. You have to be, and yet AI isn't generally. And so we've spent our time and our expertise in that area. So we've actually got people who used to work on missile defense and autonomous cars, because in those two areas, hallucinations are not really something that you can allow. Exactly.
Okay, so essentially you've got superstar scientists, essentially mad scientists, maybe even working at the company, making sure the AI behaves, which it's everything is getting a little bit better. We can see, Claude's getting better at listening. GPT-5 is it literally had an issue of listening too much. So I'm happy to see that progression, but you see everybody struggling with it. And in every layer of every app, coaching the AI is the biggest issue. So I'd love to jump into that at a later point. I have another question for you first, which is, you mentioned that you've studied people for the past 10 years and how they buy software, how they purchase software. And obviously you said one thing, that is emotion is a big driver. But what are the patterns? What are the things that people can look towards? And also as a self-respect, a little bit retrospective self-reflection. Hey, maybe this is something I'm doing and I should be aware of it, whether you're a viewer or a listener to this podcast.
Well, I suppose that, the first thing is, I suppose you've got to understand that you are definitely being manipulated in every software purchase that you make. And I think people underestimate that. I also think there's, especially when it comes to enterprise software, when you talk about large corporations, there are lots of additional human factors that are involved in a purchase like that. It could be that you have a procurement partner that buys for you. They're going to have an agenda. It could be that you're working with a consulting firm who are advising you. They're going to have an agenda. It could be that it's the end of the month and the guy just needs to sell some stuff. They're going to have an agenda. And I think it's really important that people take the time to do POVs. And oftentimes I think people rush through the process, getting a bit too excited. I think doing a really solid proof of value or proof of concept is an important part of every procurement decision, and it can be skipped. But I think also doing it over a significant enough time where you can actually see that it really works is an important part of it as well. And it sounds really obvious, and it's like, surely everyone does do that, but I think, no, they don't. And also, if you come to the table already deciding to buy something, before you even try it, you're going to make sure that it gets through your test. So I think it's, again, having a level of, I suppose the problem is, we as humans do things for lots of motivational reasons. 9 times out of 10, I think when you're working for a large company, the motivation is not, how can I best serve the corporation? I think the reality is, in every decision, is how can I best serve myself? And then how can I best serve the corporation? And so I think it is always going to be messy. What we have done is build a system that can give you the sort of truth, the facts, so that at least you can make an informed decision about whether or not you need this thing. You can compare it to what you already have. We can tell you if you already have a tool that can do that.
Let's say you're not in a position yet to get something like Samplify, whether that's internal politics or whatsoever. What are ways that you can maybe prevent yourself, or your let's say you're a CEO and you have people that are doing this, your marketing department screaming for something new. What are ways that you can potentially reflect and say, hey, is this actually needed? You already mentioned one thing, which is actually roll out a pilot, try it out first, see if it actually adds value. Are there any other buying decisions that will prevent you? How can I make sure that I don't sit opposite to a salesperson and be like, yeah, I actually need this, and be desperate? And that's one. Another thing might be, how can I make sure that do you need to compare? Is there a need for it? How do I compare if I need to also pilot it? I don't have the resources for it. Are there anything you can answer or give guidance into that sense?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I think one thing to bear in mind is that my product is only 50,000 a year. So if you have a company and that you're turning over more than a few million and you're spending more than a few million on software, we're a really good value choice. But say, for example, you're a company that doesn't spend more than $1 million a year on software and you're thinking, well, how can I manage this myself? I think time is the honest answer. The thing that we do is we accelerate the time it takes. So, for example, we worked on a project with Deloitte, and they told us we saved them a year of time on one project. I mean, a year. We saved them a year. It's mind-blowing. So the thing that you've got to bear in mind is, as the CEO, as the head of the department, you're going to have to do a cost-benefit analysis, and you're maybe do it on the back of a fag packet, but you're going to think, is it worth me spending X amount of my time to truly evaluate if we have a tool like this and if we need this tool? And the problem is we see that people decide the answer to that is no. Like 9 times out of 10, they do. But to answer your question, to stop it happening, the answer to that has to be yes. It is worth my time to do this.
Why do you think it's a no? And what can you say to people to convince them to make it a yes?
Well, we don't need to convince someone to make it a yes because they can just buy Samplify and we do all the work for them. But so that solves that problem. But it basically, if you're unfortunate enough not to have Samplify and therefore you have to do this yourself, I think you have to look at the business. So the things that happen when you buy a new piece of software: one, you spend more money than you potentially needed to because you're buying a completely new tool. So you've got to spin up all the resources to bring that into the system. Instead of spinning up one more license, you're bringing in a whole new system. So that's expensive to do. Two, you're creating a security vulnerability. You're creating another thing that's touching all of your systems, which you didn't have to do. So three, you're creating an inefficiency between coworkers. So I work on BI tool A in marketing, you work on BI tool B in sales. We sound like we're talking about the same thing because the numbers sound similar, but we're actually talking about different things and nobody notices for 6 months. Those sort of things are some of the hidden costs to bringing in tools that you don't need when you already have a tool that does the job. So inefficiency in workflow, inefficiency information passing between different departments, security vulnerabilities, and more importantly, just time. Like a whole host of different people in the company have to bring in this new tool, security, legal, IT, the particular department, instead of spin up a new license. It's a completely different proposition. Even just licensing and onboarding another company is, for most organizations, a pain in the butt. It's another thing you have to remember every year that you have to renew or not renew. So there's lots of really great reasons that people don't initially see as to why you want to keep your footprint as small as possible. I also think like some of the things are subtle. The differences are subtle. We've had lots of occasions where we've met with clients who have pieces of software because, let's say, Sean joins the company, he comes in as head of marketing, and he's obsessed with HubSpot. So he tells everybody, I can't work in this company unless we bring in HubSpot. So they go away and they bring in HubSpot. Sean leaves the company. They've still got HubSpot. And so there are loads of things that happen like that, where you're just like, oh my goodness, yes, it's important that this person is supported. Yes, it's important that this person is engaged, but they're working for your company. They're not working for their company. And so you have to be strong sometimes in the tool usage and set of tools.
Yeah, and I think in terms of grandfathering, which you're kind of initiating when somebody leaves, I think one of the major things I also see in companies is where they think they need X, Y, and Z tools, right? We need a Salesforce, we need a Marketo, we need a HubSpot. Whereas depending on how big you are, you just need one of them. You don't need all three of them. It's just irrelevant. there's so much overlap between these tools, and I'm pretty sure you guys point it out all the time. But to me, those are the big ones that I always see coming back, and I see the underutilization where marketers just being used to send a newsletter, Salesforce is being used to just have a CRM, and then, but what's HubSpot then? Yeah, we don't know. We just we just have it. The data gets flows to there. Okay, so there's no need to pay upwards to $5,000 or $10,000 per month on HubSpot, if not more. Sometimes it's crazy. So I feel like that's, you made good points here. And you pointed out the need for businesses to do it. Now, here's the question. Why don't businesses reflect on this as much? Like, why keep bleeding that money?
I'll tell you why. So the number one reason is that it's hard. So let's think about this. If I want to go into a department and I want to tell them that something that they have been using, they can no longer use, I'm going to face a lot of conflict. And people generally don't love that. It's the reason that people like Accenture and Deloitte and McKinsey exist. They exist so that I can say to somebody else, no, we got McKinsey in it. They are telling us we need to do this, not me. So Samplify to some degree performs that role. Our system is able to give you the data, and you'd say, oh, Sean, I'm sorry you're getting rid of HubSpot. It's not because I don't want you to get rid of HubSpot, but look, you can see from this report that we don't need it. And then the great thing is with our system, if you want to, if the end user has an argument that they want to put forward as to why they can keep it, you can literally send it to our AI and it will understand the rebuttal, and it will give you a workaround or a plan, or it'll explain to them why they can. So we have basically an AI called Sam, as you say, not Sam Altman, but it's just Sam at Samplify. And you just email Sam. You literally send the email that the coworker sent you, and you send it to Sam, and Sam will come back with an explanation of why you can get rid of that tool or why you don't need to buy that tool. Stuff that is very, very political. So the honest answer is, it puts, normally without something like Samplify or without McKinsey, you put the individual in a very vulnerable political position where you're asking them to go into battle with somebody about something they're not that passionate about, to force the other person to change their behavior. And it's exhausting. Whereas if you bring in something like Samplify, we give you all the tools to do that. And we take a process, as I said, like Deloitte said they saved a year with us. We save people months and months of time on every single engagement we do, because we take a process that could take 6 months and we can do it in like less 20 minutes.
In terms of, you're talking about the process in terms of evaluating whether the software is necessary or not, and evaluating whether you should be reducing certain software. That's the process you're talking about, I believe.
But both those two things, and being able to handle any objections that are coming from the organization. So again, if you brought a consulting firm in to do this with you, you're going to be working on a series of face-to-face or Zoom-based workshops for hours and hours and hours. If you bring us in, you just do that, which is just send an email to us. And how long?
Let's double click on that process and really like shrinking it down, right? You mentioned, okay, or we both came to the conclusion, it's not just reducing the software, it's not just analyzing, but you guys have a database essentially. You guys have a database, you have a smartness, you can compare, and you can come to not just a calculated decision backed up by data, but you actually can bring up reasons, or you can bring up arguments that kind of can dissuade the pain points that you're saying, or the objections essentially, right? Because the team is going to revolt. The moment you say, hey, you can't have this tool or that tool, they're going to be like, hey, I need my tool back. So how do you handle those objections? Because honestly, I think any leader that's in charge of this, or any team that is in charge of making the organization more faster, fitter, more efficient, would like to know, hey, how can I get my team off my back when
Can
I'm
I
trying
briefly
to
share something? Can I briefly share something? If I can show you in 2 seconds. So basically, you literally send an email to Sam. You say, hey, Sam, we're moving from this PDF thing to this PDF thing. Can you create a replacement plan including feature overlap, missing features, key use cases, and the migration steps? And so it sends out that email. It tells you all the things it does. It does all the stuff you need to do. here are some features that are missing. It explains the solution. So it hasn't done this feature, but knowing all the software that you have, you can just integrate it with SharePoint, and it gives you evidence that you can do that. It hasn't got this feature, so don't worry, you can integrate it with DocuSign, which we know you've got, and it explains it. Here are all the use cases, how you do the real-time collaboration, and here is the migration guidance within your ecosystem, and here are some success stories of how to do it. And then here's all the reference data so you know how we came up with that. So it does that in one simple email.
For you.
And it does everything. Again, every one of those steps could be weeks of work or months of work. It does it all. Boom, done.
I think any person, if they take the time for it, they can do it.
No, 100% you can. No question. This is what we've done is just automate what you would have to do. We don't do anything magic. We don't have any secret sauce. Our secret sauce is we've got weapons grade engineers building something to look at software. That's our secret sauce. And it doesn't use a large language model to think. It uses a very specific set of agents that we created to do this job.
Okay. So as I was saying, I think there's people can do this, right? People can jump into the software. They can look at comparison. I think that's the reason why we have comparison pages. The problem with this is who's going to do it? Who's going to make time for it? Who's going to literally identify not just, oh, this software A has this, software B has that, but okay, I'm going to cut this one, but how do I supplant it? I need to look at software D. And that's where the complexities really come in. And I think everybody here that's trying to get rid of some certain software and you have objections from your team is going to be like, oh my God, I need this. So I think 100%. You guys have a brilliant software to be added to any company.
Thank you.
I think the bloat for software isn't just a enterprise situation. I think it happens the moment you start a business. Obviously Samplify will work better and will have a bigger cost cutting effect whether you're a solo entrepreneur. I mean, unless you take all subscriptions in the world, but as a solo entrepreneur versus an enterprise, you're going to be able to do a lot more impact for enterprises. But talk to me about SMBs. Does Samplify have a place for SMBs? Let's say people that are running $1 million business, or let's say 7 to 8 figures, 10 to 50 people, something like that?
Yes, it does. Again, the way that we've basically created our product is to make it really accessible. So that's why we have this sort of very low entry point. We think it's a low entry point of 50,000. So if you think about it, we think of our products more like an employee than a piece of software. So if you have a 50-person team and you bring our tool in, you've got another team member that can answer any question from any of those 15 people about anything on a go-forward basis. You can ask it stuff every single day. It will keep your software stack optimized. So it's like having an incredible enterprise architect and procurement person on your staff for basically a lot less than an enterprise architect or a procurement person.
Yeah, I hear you on that. So, I mean, let's say we're positioning ourselves in the SMBs. There's a lot of those. There's a lot of enterprise as well. But what about software? Like, I can understand most of the enterprise tools are in your database. What if a software isn't in the database? Like, how do you tackle that? Let's say I'm a new customer. It's like, hey, we got this tool, we use this, but it's not there. How do you tackle that? How do you handle it? And how fast can you onboard new software for one of your customers?
So the way our system works is it takes a fresh look every time it does anything. So it doesn't matter. Yes, it's great if it's in our database, but it's not really the key thing. So the research that we spin up happens in real time. So if you ask us a question today about a software, our research is as of today. It's not going back in the archives and finding whatever. So it doesn't matter. Our proposition is it commercially available? If you didn't make it yourself and somebody either gives it away commercially or you can buy it commercially, then it's accessible through Samplify.
Okay. And what about, you raise a good point. Like commercial stuff, I imagine the data is available in any way or in some way or form. But what about proprietary software? A lot of businesses have proprietary tools that they use to either connect or to interface or to just utilize themselves. How do you handle those edge cases?
So what we say to the customer in that case is, do you have documentation that we can look at? If you have sufficient documentation, then we can take it. Because what we're trying to do is, I don't know, I don't know that everyone knows this, but hopefully they'll learn it in this conversation. Going online and finding this information isn't as easy as it should be for 3 reasons. 1, Google Gartner and G2 crowd, the 3Gs, their business model is to charge people like me money to advertise with them. So if I'm in a Gartner Magic Quadrant, I gave them some money. If I've got a great rating in G2 crowd, I gave them some money. If my advert comes up higher in the Google search, I gave them some money. So when people are looking online, they're going to get the same problem again if they don't dig deep, which is most of the stuff you're looking at is an ad. It might not look like an ad, but it's an ad. So that's one of the hardest parts of this business and one of the hardest parts of doing it. And one of the things that's really slow, you have to go to the vendors. You have to go and look at a whole host of different data sets to get to the facts. What genuinely does this product do? What can it deliver on? And that's where our expertise comes in and where the time comes in if you are trying to do this yourself. It's actually not just going on to Gartner. Oh, what does Gartner say? It doesn't matter what Gartner says, because I can pay to be on Gartner. You have to actually go and find the information yourself. And that's why I said doing that POV is so important, because you can't fake a POV, really. If you spend a month with someone and you're using the tool, it either works or it doesn't work.
And it's just an email away. That's the thing I love. Honestly, that's the thing. That makes it so easy for everybody. It's like, yo, I'm just going to send an email to Sam. Sam's going to get back to me, and that's it. And suddenly Sam Altman's in your inbox, and he's giving you the keys.
He's living the dream. Because you're right, because the thing is, and again, everyone does this. So every tool you buy, you've got to learn. I actually had HubSpot. I'm not saying I don't like it, but it's so complicated. I couldn't be bothered to learn it. So I moved to something called Close. So to me, I use Close as CRM. Why? Because it's so easy to me. But I think and I think you find that with lots of tools, you have to learn how to use it. With Samplify, we didn't want to make your life even more miserable. It's already miserable. I already have too much crap. I'm already getting bombarded by stuff. I don't have enough time. I don't want to have to learn something else. So we said to ourselves, how do you make it so that you don't have to learn anything? And you don't have to download anything. You just send it an email and it responds like a human, and you can send it an Excel spreadsheet and it'll give you an Excel spreadsheet back, or a Google sheet, or whatever you want. But the point is, it does Excel because that's how you do this stuff, and it talks to you on email because that's how you do this stuff.
You're making it a virtual assistant instead of software, essentially. You're making it
It's like having a new coworker, like a really incredible coworker. Yeah.
Exactly. That's working 24/7 for you and always available to get you anything you want in terms of these things. Amazing. I mean,
and isn't trying to sell you anything. It's not trying to get you to do something. It's trying to optimize your ecosystem. But you can't advertise with us. Like we're saying, oh, you should move from this to Miro. No. It doesn't work like that. We don't care. We're going to say, what's the best system for your company, for your people, given what work you do? That's all we care about. So that makes a massive difference, because even, no disrespect to consulting firms, but consulting firms can have an agenda. Why? Well, if I'm a big consulting firm and I make money selling SAP, guess what? When I come to tell you what you should be doing, I'm going to suggest SAP. If I work for IBM Consulting, how often do you think IBM Consulting recommends Salesforce instead? Never.
Never.
Do you know what I mean? And so that's the thing. So we don't have that bias. Sam doesn't have like a grandma that works at HubSpot that is trying to get you to use.
No, and I think that's a valuable point you make. I want to understand one thing. What's the holy grail? Like, how much can I save? Like, you bring in Sam. Like, what can I expect? And the max you've seen. I just want to go crazy.
We worked with a company that you might have heard of called Volkswagen Financial Services. We saved them $100 million.
Okay, so Volkswagen Financial Services, meaning the leasing
it's basically
part,
the finance of the back end. Yeah. So that's a good example. But obviously, not everyone spends enough money to save $100 million. But think about it like this. So basically, we will guarantee to save you, to identify 20%. And the reason I clarify identify is because you have to be bothered about doing something about this. We can find it. But if you cannot be bothered to do this, and you just, it's too much hassle, then we can't help you. But if you actually want to make a difference, we give you your money back if we don't find 20%. Typically, our clients will save 5 to 10% because they'll execute on 5 to 10%.
But walk me through this. I send an email. I get my recommendations back and everything. You say I got to press a button. So what happens with my subscriptions? What happens with my employee, my teams, and everybody that needs to maybe retrained into something else? Like, how does that go into Samplify? How do you guys tackle that with the client, or is that something they have to take care of themselves? But
so we have the ability to work as closely as you want with us. So we have Sam that's automated that will do all the work. But if you say, actually, we'd like an extra pair of hands to help us do this, we have resources that we can give you who are sort of aftercare in a way, and they can come into your company and actually say, okay, fine, I now need to help you get rid of this. If you like, run a training session for these people. That's part of our offering. It's not the core part of what we do because you don't need that bit, but if you want it, we can provide it.
I hear you. So save 20%. Potential to save minimum.
Guaranteed to find, so 20%,
Yeah.
guaranteed. Every
Guaranteed to
system has
save
got something. Yeah.
push through on it, and 5 to 10% real world savings, and that's a significant
In
amount already.
cash, but not.
Yeah.
If you think about the time saved, it's exponentially more than that. So again, if you think about billable hours, like most people, when they're running an organization of a certain size, think about how much does each person cost me per hour. If you're saving 6 months of that person's time, that's real cost. If you're able to make a decision 6 months earlier, I have a piece of software, it costs me $10,000 a year. If I do it myself, I can get rid of it in 6 months. So I will have spent $5,000. If I use this tool, I can get rid of it like that. I would have saved $10,000.
I hear you. James, I want to ask you another question. Different thing, still about the cost essentially. Let's talk about the biggest of them all.
Go on.
Government.
Yeah,
I mean,
they're hilarious.
I think there's not a government in the world that is not misusing, let's call it abusing, I would say, taxpayers' money. I think everybody's. Let's assume that people are trying to do their best and make sure that they spend our money as wise as possible. Let's just assume they do. We'll keep politics out of it. But talk to me about government. Have you been able to work with governments? Have you seen anything that happens there? And talk to me in general first about the landscape. Let's start with the landscape about governments. What do you know about that?
So governments, in fact, I think pretty all governments tend to work around a framework approach to this. So over time, they will have had to create a way to engage with suppliers. And they will have had to formalize that in a way so it doesn't look like they're preferring anyone out there in the market. And so they'll create what seems like robust processes to filter for this. The problem with that is, firstly, normally that approach favors large companies because what it does is it creates loads of work to get onboarded, and only large companies can do it, or they'll put in place frameworks that have particular requirements. And again, only large companies can fulfill those requirements. So that's one of the challenges. The other thing is they are so insanely slow and so insanely risk averse. I think to my mind, it is a travesty that government spending isn't required to be 100% transparent. I think it would be, I don't know why we as citizens in every country don't say, if you are spending any money, I want to see exactly what you spent it on because it's my money you're spending. But that isn't the case. It's still all a bit mystical and a bit behind closed doors. But I would say the challenge that we have, for example, going to that space is they like to have like 10 companies come and pitch for the work, but there isn't another company that does what we do. So what we say is, okay, cool. The only thing you can do is go and find a consulting firm. Like if you go to a consulting firm, they'll do some of what we do. But there isn't another company that does this. So you can't really find another company that does this.
And is there something to say that one of the risks one of the things that might work against Samplify is that you're not seen as a consulting firm, but you're seen as a tool? Is that one of the things you're seeing, or is that not a risk at all?
I mean, I'm not bothered about that. I think times are changing very quickly. I think the fact that we're using, yeah, and I think the fact that we partner with consulting firms, so it's not that we dislike them. We partner with them quite extensively because we can help them deliver this work better, faster, quicker, easier. And we can also give them ongoing revenue, which again, most consulting firms do a project and leave, and a project and leave. And so there's lots of benefits to collaborating with consulting firms for us. But I think we are talking right now to a government of a small island off the coast of the UK. We are talking to actually two small islands off the coast of mainland Britain. We're talking to. And so we'll see if either of those come up. What I find the funniest call I had recently was with the Irish government, and they looked at our tool and they said, "Oh no, this is too good. It's going to solve lots of the problems. It's going to create too much work." And you're like, "Oh my god, I can't. What do I do with that?" It's like I don't know what to say.
That's government for right there, like in one sentence. Thank you, James. Thank you. My
Shocking,
God.
but true.
Yeah, unfortunate. But I mean, at the end of the day, if I'm being honest, Samplify, in my opinion, a tool like Samplify should be something a government should be using. And the lower,
They should be forced to use it. We actually
yeah,
offered to give the US government. We offered the US government to use it for free, and so far nobody has taken us up on it.
well, I think it's difficult to tell your constituents we're going to save some money for some reason. I don't know why, but it feels like it is. Um, I want to touch base on a last thing from my side, and that's something I suffer from also sometimes, in which we in our field we call it shiny new object syndrome. So help me, doctor. How do I get rid of my shiny new object syndrome? How? And I don't. I'm sorry. Like to me, maybe that's a mental thing. I see something new, but I honestly know that there's people in companies like me that want to buy everything because it's so cool. Not it. So how do I get rid of that as a person? So let's not talk about companies. Let's talk about
Well,
the
before
individual.
you get rid of it, buy Samplify, and then afterwards, once you've got that,
Hear everything. You'll hear everything.
you could. Yeah, no, I think the shiny new object thing. I was thinking it's so funny. I just got a new Mac. When we were talking earlier, I was thinking I do the same thing. I mean, because I do it to myself on my just with stupid, silly things that they don't even cost anything. I just download a load of crap to my computer, and I've got loads of apps at the bottom. I haven't spent any money, but I've got loads of stuff. And so I just think it is an interesting one. It is a little bit of human nature, but I think what people need to do in the context of their company, if it's not just for fun, like downloading games or whatever, in the context of their company, I think really you just have to take a step back and think, when this becomes a successful company, when we're at a certain size, won't I care about the fact that we've just let everyone run riot? Won't I care about the fact that we've got loads of security vulnerabilities? Won't I care that every single month another renewal comes up and I can't keep a hold of it? Won't I care that I have to now hire people to manage this process? Won't I care that I now have to go and invest in a software asset management system because it's too complicated for my team to handle? When in fact, if at the start I had just been more thoughtful and strategic and confident about my buying process, and I hadn't just said, well, this new person's joined, let them buy what they want. Or this new person joined, let them buy what they want. Oh, actually, it's good. Just empower the teams. Empowering the teams is disempowering everyone else. It's not good for the culture. It's not good for the shareholders. It's not good for your bottom line. It's not good for your IT department. It's not good for your procurement department. It's not good for your security. It is a disaster to just think that the easy way is to let your people do what they want. People are not great at making these decisions. They make loads of stupid decisions. And why would you trust them to buy strategically relevant software to your company? You don't trust them to buy anything else for your company. It's not saying, oh, just go and buy whatever you like. Like, you go and buy it, or you want a new desk, go and buy whatever desk you want. It's like we put more emphasis on someone's chair. Like, how many companies have you joined where you can go and buy whatever chair you like and whatever desk you like? There are no companies like that. But when it goes to your software, suddenly you can do what you like. And I think it's a shame. It is the reason there is software sprawl. Every customer we talk to has a problem with software sprawl. Every customer we talk to doesn't know all the software they own. every customer we talk to cannot honestly look you in the eye and tell you how much they spend. Can you imagine this? Think about this. If you were a shareholder in a company at the next board meeting, ask them how much they spend on software. They don't know. Nobody knows. It's mental.
There's a word you've been saying a few times while we've been talking, and I think it's well one of them also that I wanna just zoom in a little bit more, which is security. It's actually a topic that we haven't done, but I mean, one of the things I'm hearing and I'm seeing in everything that you're saying is yes, there's companies that are acquiring software for various reasons, whether it is because somebody came in, it was already there, we forgot to cancel it, we didn't
That
even know
happens
we had.
so often.
So
My God.
those are that keep on going on. At the end of the day, it creates one big thing, and that's all the tech load creates a security gap that potentially could be utilized. Have you seen, has a client once come to you out of a security need, for example, or have you seen people where you did an audit and suddenly you realized, hey, this is potentially dangerous?
We don't go to a company with that as our core agenda. We raise it like I raised it on this call. We are currently working with a very, very, very large technology company, and we're helping them remove 700 tools, which is huge. Like, I don't think anyone has ever
What's
done.
the headcount side?
Hun?
What's the headcount of the company, if I may ask?
I'll check. I don't know.
That's 700 tools. I mean,
let me find out a number. Hold on. I'll try and find the number roughly.
Do you need to have 50,000,
Yeah.
100,000? Do you need to have 10,000? Because that's a lot of tools. I mean, that's.
Oh no, that's how many we're getting rid of.
Yeah, exactly. It's like
they've got over 100,000 employees.
Yeah, wow. But that's going to mean different. Okay, so this is an interesting thing because, I think a lot of people still see a company as one entity, one office, one thing, and where you have the option that if you have a company that's distributed because you have multiple offices, 100,000, you're going to have offices in multiple countries, right? And every office needs to have a check-in system. Every office needs to have maybe a local CRM. Every office needs and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So I think you're to be having a lot of gains by merging things together, I would say. But what are the most commonalities in this type of a company that you're seeing?
Well, it's not even, so in our clients across the board, the things we see, one, that they are sat on an enormous amount of potential, that they can remove a vast amount of software. Two, that they have massive amounts of software that very few people actually use, but they have it. Three, that they have no idea of all the capabilities that they have. And so they're buying things they don't need. Four, we can, in less than a week, completely change the way that they buy software by helping them understand what they already own. And five, we save them a incredible amount of time, effort, and energy, and give them back freedom and confidence.
Freedom and confidence. I like how you say that because I don't think people think about it that way. Because there's a lot of being tied down to software. I mean, whether it's old software, new software, it's just, you don't need it. Let's get it out. Stop being tied down. And the answer to that is Samplify. James, it's been a pleasure to have you here. Thank you very much.
Thank you. It's been great.
We had a lot of fun talking about everything. I love the fact that we were able to talk a little bit about the government as well, about how you guys solve problems and specifically the commonalities that we see, the common problems that we see in businesses. And for everybody that wakes up every day and think, oh, we could get rid of this, or wants to cut cost, or is like, your mind's being opened by this, Samplify.ai, reach out to James.
Definitely. Or find me on LinkedIn. Come and have a chat. If you're not a potential customer, you've got a question you ask, it's just James Layfield on LinkedIn. You'll find me there. Happy to answer questions. Please shout out.
James, thank you very much. And until the next time.